All right, all right. We're going to go ahead and get started tonight. If you guys want to make your way back to where you were sitting at, it is so good to be back at YALA. I was out last week. I was hiking a bunch. It wasn't even fun for a lot of part of it. Emily Cover owes me $2. I just want everybody to know that she owes me $2. She can buy me a milkshake later. But if you were out last week, like I was, then you missed out on an incredible sermon by Jared O. Jared O talked about the time between the waiting, the already not yet. And so if you missed that, you can go back on the YALA podcast on Spotify. You can get it there. You can go on YouTube and you can listen to it. But he preached such an incredible sermon about what we do in the waiting and how we pursue Jesus. And then tonight, as far as the story of Song of Songs, we get to the point where the wait is over. Okay? Judah and Millie gone? Let's do this thing. All right. All right. Now, when it comes to marriage, something that for those of you who are married, maybe you just need to hear this. For those of you who are not married yet, you need to know it's okay to be kind of silly and weird with your spouse. Okay, that's part of it. You become each other's like best friend, like you know each other's thoughts, and then you find out that both of you together create this weird sense of humor. For Jesse and I, we recently discovered that we enjoy watching other people suffer and be in pain. With that, you do. All right. One of the shows that I recently binge watched was Alone. Anybody in here watch Alone? All right. So for those of you who don't, the whole premise of the show is that these 10 people are put out into the wilderness and they have to survive longer than anyone else while being completely alone, and they have 10 items and they have to live as primitive as they can. And so you're basically just watching people suffer until they quit. Or they starve and they have to get pulled. And you're like, cool, that's the whole premise of the show. Last one standing gets a bunch of money. And so that's one that I watched 8 seasons of in 1 week. 1 week. Yeah, it was impressive, okay? But one thing that Jesse and I like to watch together, that's where I get my suffering crave, right? But whenever it comes to pain, Jesse and I watch fail videos. Any fail video people in here? Okay, all right, lot of us. Glad I'm not the only weirdo. So whenever it comes to fail videos, the ones that are always the most strenuous on my soul is as soon as I see a set of weights involved. Like whenever it shows the gym, I go, this is about to get real ugly real fast. Like somebody's going to be bench pressing and like a chest muscle's going to tear and the bar's going to fall and like hit them on the throat. And I'd be like, oh, that was awesome. And so you have those, but I actually had a real life one. It wasn't me. It was one of my basketball players last year. It was spring workouts, and I had this player that I called Big Bird. She hated that nickname. I didn't care. Big Bird was 14 and taller than me, so she was Big Bird. And so we've been lifting, and Big Bird is a freshman, and she is so dedicated to being the best basketball player that she can be. She's the first one in the gym. She's the last one out. She's always working on fundamentals. When we go into the weight room, she's wanting to get stronger. She plays the post. She understands. There are seniors that she's going to play against that are like 6'3", and she's got to be able to outwork them because she's not that tall, okay? Just because she's taller than me doesn't mean she's that tall. Stage might be a little deceptive. Big Bird is working on getting stronger. Now, all throughout the time that we've been working out, I work out with the girls, both for my own physical sake and then also so they can see the exercises modeled well. And I teach them the proper technique. And this one day, we've been going through the routine for, a couple months, and we're doing calf raises with a squat bar, okay? So you get on the squat rack, you load up the plates, step off of it, and now you're just doing toe raises, okay? Working on the calves. Got to be able to jump. It's basketball. And so Big Bird always worked out right next to me. I'm almost 30. Big Bird is 15. She's literally half my age. This is me. I'm a full-grown man. I'm not getting any bigger. But I am a grown man. She is a developing young lady. And this day, she decided that she was going to try and do about the same weight that I did. I typically did about 250 on calf raises. I just got big legs for a small guy. And so she put 225 on her bar. And she went up behind it, and she tiptoed and barely got it off, and she did about a half a calf raise, and her legs gave out. And she's got 225 resting on her back. She falls forward to try and land back on the squat rack, but she misses it. And so as she goes down, this bar is now like running down her back, and luckily we had put some little side safety bars. Had we not had those, that bar would have gone down and landed right on the back of her ankle and probably ended her basketball career, okay? There are a lot of things that went wrong in this situation. One, where the crap is her spotter, right? That was my question. I was like, who was supposed to be here? Nobody stepped up, okay? What happened? Big Bird had been told over and over what right technique was. She's been told the safe parameters that will make her stronger. She's just got to wait. She's got to develop those muscles all along the way. And there was no one there to tell her, hey, this isn't a good idea. And the same problems exist within our approach to romantic life. We don't want to have to go through the right process to get the gains that we need to have to be ready for marriage. We want to jump right into the part where we feel like, oh, we're actually getting somewhere. And so instead of waiting for how God has designed for romantic relationships to happen, we jump in to a step we're not ready for. We've been given godly parameters for sex, for it to be good and God-glorifying and enjoyable and beneficial to us, but we go off on our own tangents. And we end up getting hurt spiritually and emotionally, and then we carry that hurt and the mental effects of that into the right context later on down the road. You don't get rid of that stuff. In week 1, we established that God's design for sex is good, and He hasn't left us clueless as to how all of it's supposed to work out. But it has to exist within how He has designed it. A marriage, a holy union before God between a man and a woman committed to each other for life. And tonight we get to see that beautiful design of marriage unfold in chapters 3 and 4. Now, if you guys want to go ahead and turn there, you can go ahead and open up to Song of Songs, chapter 3. We're going to be picking up about verse 6. Now, when Jesse and I were dating, you've heard me mention the guy, Ben Stewart, a couple times. Absolutely love Ben's preaching style, the way that he relates. And we listened to his Song of Songs series, and it was super beneficial to both of us. And he absolutely crushed the wedding night sermon. And so I'm going to be pulling some of the stuff from him and give him credit. Ben, if you're watching this sometime way down the road, thank you for your service to young adults everywhere. Now, last week, Jared left off with the woman speaking to her friends, telling them to wait. And we pick back up with the woman still speaking, but now the scene has changed, okay? Song of Songs 3, verse 6, this is where we're at. We're at the place that she's been waiting for her entire life, her wedding day. I've recently found out just how true it is that girls really plan for this day their entire life. Like from the time that you're like 5, you're like dreaming of your wedding day. Well, apparently she has too. So Song of Songs 3, verse 6, she says, "Who is this coming up from the wilderness like a column of smoke, perfumed with myrrh and incense, made from all the spices of the merchant?" So it's her wedding day. This is the procession in, and she looks out, and she says, "Who is this coming up from the wilderness like a column of smoke?" What does that remind you of if you've been exposed to any type of church in the background? It's the Exodus. It's them coming up out of the land of the wilderness, following the Lord. And so she says, here is the man that I'm going to trust to lead me. This is him approaching me. This is my husband. This is who I get to look forward to doing life with for the rest of my days. She's saying that she's ready to humbly submit herself to his leadership, not as a lesser person in a relationship, okay? You are equals in the eyes of God. She says that she is intent to honor God and how He is designed for this whole thing to work. And she's ready to follow her husband wherever God may lead and to be his partner in ministry. And she says, I trust him because I trust God, and he trusts God. And then she elaborates on his presence. She says that he smells of all the spices and the perfumes of the merchant that were being traded around. She says, man, he even smells excellent. He is the best that this world has to offer. And really, he could have been wearing like Axe body spray, and she'd have thought it was like Dior Sauvage or something. She's just like, just immersed by him. She says the way he smells, that's what I want to wake up to every day for the rest of my life. Just the way he smells. Just wake up and go, you need to brush your teeth. Then she continues on. She says, look at Solomon's carriage, escorted by 60 warriors, the noblest of Israel, all of them wearing the sword, all experienced in battle, each with a sword at his side, prepared for the terrors of the night. Now, she's talking a lot here. She's using imagery to convey what she thinks about him. When she says Solomon's carriage, it's not like Cinderella carriage, okay? It's more like what's called a palanquin. If you think about Mideastern culture, this is where you have the guys who are on like this elaborate couch that has like the curtains around it, and you have these other strong guys carrying them around. That's what she's kind of picturing here. And then she says that he's being escorted in. This is symbol of like regal, royal type of image. And then she says that he's surrounded by 60 warriors. Now, ladies, I'm going to let you know, if your husband shows up surrounded by the SWAT team, you might want to reconsider your marriage, okay? Might be something going on, but that's not what her image here is, okay? She's saying that he is safe. In him is security. There's this promise of protection. She says his presence brings peace with him. He's safe. He's ready to do battle on her behalf. He's ready to fight for her. He is ready to go against the fiercest of foes for her life's sake. He's ready to lay it all down for her and protect her. And as much as our culture wants to try and downplay it, there's something natural about a husband being ready at a moment's notice to lay down his life for his bride, for his family. Whenever you think about like the Titanic, whenever the lifeboats start, they're like, hey, we got to get them. Who's the first on there? Get the women and the children, right? There ain't no guys like, oh, my turn. Sorry, 2021, I'm on, okay? They're not doing that. There's something innate about the guy saying, no, you go. Let me protect you however I can. Jesse and I, we had a scary experience a few years back. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning, and I hear this intense rattling like someone trying to break into my door. And so I get up and I immediately spring into action. For those of you who don't know Jesse very well, confrontation is not a strong suit. So like, it's me or nobody. Like, there's no second option here. And so I tell her, like, go stand by the window, unlock the doors. If I tell you to jump out that window and run, you better jump out that window and run. I reach under the bed, I grab a 12 gauge. I rack one. I put another one in. I'm ready. I'm clearing out the house. I said, hey, cut out the light. I don't want them to see me stepping outside the door. So I step outside, I cut the lights, and I'm clearing through my house. I'm going. And I'm screaming into the darkness, I will shoot you in the face. You better get out of my house. And I mean, if I'm pointing a gun at you, I'm not doing that thinking I'm not going to pull the trigger, okay? And so I'm walking through the house, and I'm clearing it out, and Jesse's freaking out, and I get to the last door, which is right by the little heater unit, and I'm like, this is it. This is it. It's me or him. It's me or him. Okay, here we go. Here we go. And I sweep, and about that time, the noise happens again. And it's in the heating unit. An acorn had fallen from an oak tree down the little flue pipe, went inside the heater to the fan, and it sounded like someone wiggling a doorknob. I was about to blow the house down over an acorn. But you know what? My wife was safe. Okay, that's right. That's right. I'm the mighty protector of the Rogers clan, okay? I knew that was my duty, though. My duty was to be ready at that moment to lay down my life for my wife, to make sure that she is protected. Ladies, that's what your husband should be for you. He should be a place of safety. Physically, yes. Emotionally, spiritually. He should be the person that you can turn to, that you can trust, and you can give all of your fears over to. And whenever you're burdened, he carries those burdens for you. And when you're overwhelmed, he takes on more because that's his responsibility. Gentlemen, when you say I do, that's what you're signing up for, okay? You're not signing up for an unlimited amount of sex. You're signing up to be her husband, to care for her, to be there for her, to always put her needs above yours. That's what this woman sees in her soon-to-be husband. And because she trusts him, and she knows she can give everything to him and knows she's protected and safe, because of that, she also adores him. She says, King Solomon made for himself the carriage. He made it of wood from Lebanon, its posts he made of silver, its base of gold, its seat was upholstered with purple, its interior inlaid with love. Daughters of Jerusalem, come out, and look, you daughters of Zion. Look on King Solomon wearing a crown, the crown with which his mother crowned him on the day of his wedding, the day his heart rejoiced. She says his carriage is made of all the finest things. He has spared no expense for her. He's given everything that he has over to her. He sought out the rare and the majestic to share with her, and now she sees him coming down the aisle, and she's just so excited about this moment. She's in full swoon that they are going to be together at long last. She's so excited this guy's going to be her husband. And that's how chapter 3 ends. We're there at the procession before the ceremony. We don't actually get anything from the ceremony, okay? So you see this adoration from her. The ceremony apparently has happened. And then we get to the beginning of chapter 4, and the scene has switched, and now it's the wedding night. And who should speak but the husband now? Go figure. So he begins talking about the moment they've been waiting for. He walks into the bridal chamber, the wedding chamber, and he begins speaking. He says, "How beautiful you are, my darling. Oh, how beautiful. Your eyes behind your veil are doves." Now, this couple just got married. All the guests have gone home. Now they are alone. But he doesn't just walk in, cue the lights, hit the R&B, just okay? He doesn't just walk in and start making moves. He knows that that's not what this whole thing is about, okay? He says, no, this is special, and it's far too special of a night to ruin with haste and with hormones. He says, no, I'm going to walk in here, and I'm about to see my bride. And she is my bride, and I know what's about to happen, but I don't want to miss what is happening in this moment. And so he begins talking to her, and he begins describing her, and he's letting her know that he notices every little detail about her. He doesn't miss anything, and he begins with the top of her body, the most least sensual parts. He says, your eyes are like doves. Doves are the symbol of love and of peace. Whenever Noah, his time of waiting was over, he knew that because a dove had returned with an olive branch. And so for this guy, he looks at this woman and he says, in her eyes, I see peace and love and life. And my waiting is now over. And so just looking into her eyes, he's already just overwhelmed. As much as he is the protector of her, she is peace to him. There's no apprehension. There's no fear. There is only peace in this relationship. And then he continues. He says, your hair is like a flock of goats descending from the hills of Gilead. So now I need to reiterate that he is not literally describing this woman. If he were to literally describe this woman, she would look something like this. She ain't getting married, okay? I'm sorry. I ain't saying she don't deserve to be loved, but I'm saying I ain't going to be the one to love her, okay? But again, he's not using literal description here. It's about what the image is supposed to inspire. He says that she is like a flock of goats descending, not descended. Her hair is descending. She is letting her hair fall, which is something that culture said is only reserved for your husband. It's a very sensual part. She is letting her hair down. He is seeing her in her most vulnerable at this moment. She is letting her hair down for him. She has shown vulnerability, and it's an awe-inspiring moment. He says that she's like a flock of goats. This is a shepherd that's talking, okay? He knows what he's talking about. But for us, it might get kind of lost, okay? Whenever you see a herd of animals move, if you never have, it is really a spectacle to view. Like there's something just incredible about seeing a mass of animals move. But when he says these goats are descending from Gilead, I watched a video not too long ago of these mountain goats that were coming down like this sheer bluff. And they're walking on ledges that are like this wide. And they are so sure-footed. They could never be attacked by something else. Nothing else is that sure-footed. The only way that goat becomes vulnerable is by coming down. And the same thing for the woman is true here. She has been at this place where she is not vulnerable. She has not put herself in a position to give herself sexually to anyone else. She says, no, this is something only I can give. The only way that this is going to happen is if I allow it to happen. And so she's saying, I'm giving everything to you. There's no more wall for you to climb. I'm here and I'm yours. And so he keeps describing her. He says, your teeth are like a flock of sheep just shorn, coming up from the washing. Each has its twin, not one of them is alone. She has white teeth. That's good. She brushed them, okay? 9 out of 10 dentists approve of her. And he says that each has its twin, meaning that they're all straight. Nothing's sticking out somewhere that it shouldn't. She has all of them. Context clues seem to indicate that maybe this couple is from Alabama because he makes a big deal about it. But he's complimenting her smile, okay? He's talked about her eyes and her hair, and now he's talking about her teeth. She's looking at him, she's surrendering herself to him, and she's smiling about it. This is a joyous time. He's excited for this moment, and so is she, as it rightly should be. And he keeps on, your lips are like scarlet ribbon, your mouth is lovely. Your temples behind your veil are like the halves of a pomegranate. Your neck is like the Tower of David, built with courses of stone. On it hang 1,000 shields, all of them shields of warriors. He compliments her voluptuous lips. Jordan Slack asked me if I could work the word voluptuous into the sermon series, and I told him I would. You're welcome, sir. You're welcome. He compliments her temples. And then he says, your neck is like the Tower of David, and there's shields of warriors all around it. How many of you guys ever been to Disney World? Okay. Those of you who haven't, don't go during COVID. My first experience was during COVID, and it was kind of a letdown. I still love my wife. She still loves me. We're going to go back whenever COVID's over. So, but there is something, whenever you walk up to Cinderella's castle and you look at those towers and you go, that's pretty legit. Or you think about like a medieval castle, like you couldn't like just go in and just take those things over. And he says her neck is like the Tower of David. One commentary I read said this, the picture of a Tower of David, Israel's great warrior king, adorned with the shields and weapons of mighty men, cannot but convey a sense of unassailable strength. No man could conquer her, and her suitor is awed by the dignity she carries. Her love is a gift. It could never become plunder. Ladies, let that be true of you. Your husband is not your conqueror, okay? Your boyfriend dang sure ain't. You surrender yourself to your husband as a gift to him. And gentlemen, you need to see that that is a gift she is giving to you. This man respects and loves his bride way too much to take for granted this moment. This is him saying this about her. This isn't her saying this about herself. He's looking at her and going, I could never take your love from you. You can only give it to me. And thank you so much for sharing this part of your life with me. Now, he's being super romantic about it, and that's where, as men, we tend to struggle when we get into marriage. Our mindset, really, in general, as a culture towards sex, has been corrupted by the things that we've engaged with and the things that we've watched, and our concept of marriage has been corrupted. But here, we're 4 verses into chapter 4, and this guy still isn't done talking, okay? He's been married, and apparently been married for a while. All the guests are gone. He's probably ready to have sex with his wife, but he's not rushing into this thing. He's not going to even touch her until verse 11. The whole time before that, he is talking to her and wooing her. Even though she is already his by marital right, he understands that this relationship needs to constantly be cultivated even from the beginning. Men, you got to allow yourselves to be vulnerable in how you communicate with your wife. And I know this is one that I struggle with. As a dating guy, I was romantic, like hopeless romantic. One time I drove from Natchitoches to Shreveport to leave a box of chocolate and a flower on Jessie's windshield while she was in class at LSUS, and then I drove home. I was in Shreveport for like 5 minutes, but I spent 2+ hours driving, okay? You know the last time I did something like that? About 8 years ago, I drove from Natchitoches to Shreveport. And no, it's something that we fall into. We get so used to the relationship. You get married, and then life happens. And you come home after a long day, and you're tired, and you sit down, and you eat dinner. Maybe you cook it together. Probably not. Probably stopped by Sonic, got some mozzarella cheese sticks because she's pregnant. And it's been a new thing. Can't say I haven't enjoyed it. But you get used to life just going on as usual, and then at the end of the night, you go to sleep, you lay in your bed, and every now and then you kind of expect sex to happen. But you're not cultivating anything. You're not worried about what her romantic needs are outside of sex, because as a guy, you don't really think about it sometimes. Whenever Ben Stewart was preaching through this, he brought up some amazing points that I would be stupid not to point. And the first one he made was about divorce. He said divorce doesn't start with an attraction to someone else. It doesn't start with sexual desire for another person. It starts when warmth leaves the home. And he went on to talk about how important it is for the husband to make sure that he loves his wife in action and in word, that he shares those moments with her. Most of you guys in here aren't married. Some of you are. Most of you aren't. And I remember being at the point where I would do anything just to hold Jesse through the night. I just couldn't wait for that moment. But those feelings you're going to find are fleeting, okay? Because they're feelings. Just like there's times that I feel like going to the gym, there's a lot more times that I don't feel like going to a gym. Just like there's times that I feel like going for a walk, there's a lot more times I don't feel like going for a walk. In the same way, there's times I feel like being romantic toward Jesse, and there are a lot more times where I don't feel like being romantic toward Jesse. But I've got to choose. Am I going to act on my temporal feeling, or am I going to act on my biblical calling to love my wife? What are you going to base that decision on? You're called to love your spouse and nurture them. So don't miss out on that very important aspect of your relationship. Married fellas, if you've been missing out on it like I have a tendency to do, then make the change. You single guys, you need to be preparing to be vulnerable with your wife, but your girlfriend is not the person you're supposed to be super vulnerable with right now. Ladies, you got to keep those boundaries while you're dating, okay? You can't give everything over to him because I'm just going to be honest, it might not work out. And then you've given someone something of your life that you can't ever get back. Now, ladies, on the other side of this, when you have a husband who is trying, who's doing his best to show you how much he loves you, you don't make fun of his efforts whenever he tries. You want a husband who doesn't show you affection? Make fun of him. Video it. Put it on your phone so that you can put it on Instagram, and then don't share in the actual moment that he's experiencing with you. The world is not supposed to see the entirety of your marriage. Okay? There are parts of your marriage that are supposed to be just between you and the other person. And so that's that guy letting his guard down and really opening up his heart to you. Don't waste that. Don't make it a show. Don't make it a spectacle. Don't make it a laughing stock. Because I promise if you do that, you're cultivating a relationship of resentment. You need to be cultivating a relationship of trust and care and affection. Because I'm going to tell you, he's scared and he's nervous. And he doesn't know if he's doing that right. And so he's looking for any excuse not to have to be uncomfortable, especially when he's new at it or hasn't done it in a while. So affirm your husband in there. Now from there, the guy's been talking about the physical characteristics of the woman. He just talked about her neck, and now he's going to work into a more southern direction. He keeps talking. He says, your breasts are like two fawns, like twin fawns of a gazelle that browse among the lilies. Now, if we need to, before we jump into this, we can take a quick water break. We'll make sure that everybody's comfortable. We good? Yes, okay, all right. The Bible is talking about, what do you think it's talking about? It's not the only time that the Bible talks about the sensitive areas of a woman. And in Proverbs 5:19, ESV translation says, a lovely deer, a graceful doe, let her breasts fill you at all times with delight. Be intoxicated always in her love. The writer says, those belong to your wife. You have full access. Have fun. He says, literally, let her breast fill you with delight. He didn't say, go make a kid and get it over with, because that's not the only intention, okay? Sex is designed by God to be joyous and celebratory. It's not just for procreation. It's emotional and spiritual bonding experience between two people that's on a very, very deep level, and it's supposed to be enjoyable. But guys, he doesn't go in talking about her breasts as a theme park, okay? He describes them. Notice how he describes them. He says they are fawns of a doe gazelle. Gazelles are beautiful, graceful creatures, and he says that her breasts are like the fawns of a gazelle. Now, I'm a hunter, and as a hunter, whenever I see a big buck that I am willing to go harvest, as soon as I see him, in my head I go, big buck, and I start immediately moving into action. Like I'm ranging to see how far he is, I'm knocking an arrow, or I'm chambering around, I'm propping up. I am ready to take this animal's life. I'm moving into action because I know that's meat in the freezer and antlers up on the wall, okay? That's whenever I see a buck. Whenever I see a fawn in the late summer and the early fall, I don't move into action. There's something about seeing a fawn that I immediately become an observer, because that fawn is vulnerable and awkward and clumsy, and it's naive. It doesn't know safety from danger. I can't tell you how many times I've walked up on a fawn and been this close from me to Brandon right here, and the fawn just kind of looks at me like, who are you? What do you do? And then the mom in the background goes, and they're saying, hey, time to go. That guy will shoot you. And so, but whenever I see that fawn, there's something about it that just mesmerizes me and says, no, this is something gentle. This is something vulnerable. This is something that is susceptible to my every whim because it has no defense. You want to know how to make a fawn run, though? You run at it screaming. You want to know how to make your wife turned off? You run at her screaming while you're naked. Okay? He doesn't take that approach. Okay? He goes in and he's gentle and he's assuring and he said, get the image out of your head, okay? He says, until the day breaks and the shadows flee, I will go to the mountain of myrrh and to the hill of incense. A mountain and a hill, and he had just talked about her breasts. Those are the same things that he's talking about. Now, whenever he says, until the day breaks and the shadows flee, Lionel Richie said it this way, all night long, all night. You know, he's not talking about going on a nighttime hiking trip over a mountain, okay? And he says, you are altogether beautiful, my darling. There is no flaw in you. Come with me from Lebanon, my bride. Come with me from Lebanon. Descend from the crest of Ammana, from the top of Senir, the summit of Hermon, from the lion's den and the mountain haunts of leopards. In verses 7 and 8, he's describing all of these places that are extremely hard to reach and they're dangerous to go to. And he's saying these are the places where we've kept ourselves. We've made sure no one else could touch us or reach us. There is no danger in them. And he's saying, let's come down from these places together and be vulnerable as one married union. He says, you've stolen my heart, my sister, my bride. You've stolen my heart with one glance of your eyes, with one jewel of your necklace. How delightful is your love, my sister, my bride. How much more pleasing is your love than wine, and the fragrance of your perfume more than any spice. He's got to be from Alabama. He's got to be. What he's saying by my sister, my bride, is he's saying that she is his equal in every way before the eyes of God. And he is committed as her spouse in union before God. He compliments her eyes. He compliments her smell. He's making his move. Okay? And then he gets to verse 11. He says, your lips drop sweetness as the honeycomb, my bride. Milk and honey are under your tongue. The fragrance of your garments is like the fragrance of Lebanon. He calls her lips sweet. He calls them milk and honey, which is the way that the promised land is described. How does he know what the underside of her tongue tastes like? Apparently, they audited the same foreign language class that some of you guys have audited. He can smell her garments, the wafting of the air. Now, typically, if you smell someone, it's because they've walked by, their clothes has disturbed the air around you. Her clothes have moved, but she's not walking by him, okay? They are no longer on her. He can smell her scent. And he says, here, we get to the sensitive part where this is them about to consummate this marriage. He says, you are a garden locked up, my sister, my bride. You are a spring enclosed, a sealed fountain. Your plants are an orchard of pomegranates with choice fruits, with henna and nard and saffron, calamus and cinnamon, with every kind of incense tree, with myrrh and aloes and all the finest spices. You are a garden fountain, a well of flowing water streaming down from Lebanon. He calls her a garden locked. And there's a lot behind the words that he uses here to convey the imagery. But all of the garden imagery throughout this song is to point back to the Garden of Eden, the place of perfection, the place of unhindered fellowship with God, the place of no toil, place of beauty, the place of complete purity. Her garden locked means that she is a virgin, and she has saved herself for him, and he has also saved himself for her. He says, your garden still has its choice fruits. No one has taken any of the fruit from your garden. All of her blessings and gifts are still there for him. No one else has experienced them. And for some of us, we read that and we hear that, and we say, Justin, that's too late for me. I don't have that. That hope is gone. And in some ways, you're right. You can't ever get that back. But there is grace. And Jesus says, I will make you a new creation. New. Not that he'll make better what you already have. He says, I'm going to make you new. And so if you trust Jesus with your life, and you say, no, I'm going to live from this point forward for his glory in the standard of his holiness, then you get to walk into that marriage later on down the road with your choice fruits. Save everything you have left for your spouse. Stop sleeping with every boyfriend or girlfriend you have and wait for your marriage night. For those of you who find yourself in that, that's what you do. You say, no, from this point forward, I'm committing my life to Jesus and his standard of holiness because that's what he expects of me. If I'm going to follow Jesus, this is part of what it means. For those of you who already have a habit established now in a relationship where there is sexual immorality, been there, done that, got the t-shirt. You need to get accountability around you, or you need to break it off. As tough as that is, those are your options. Either commit that relationship and say, no more. No more are we going to not be worried about the holiness of God and his standard. We're going to pursue Jesus individually, and then we'll bring that together later on. You either do that or you end it. Because if one of you is not worried about the purity in the eyes of God, then that relationship isn't focused on the Lord anyway. And that's not one you need to be in. If you're already engaged and living together, then make the tough decision to call up a friend and say, hey, can I crash with you for the next 6 months on your couch? Or you call a friend and you say, hey, let's rent a house together for the next year, and tell her or him to do the same thing. I'm not saying it's going to be easy to do any of that by any means, but denying your own desire for the sake of holiness is never going to be easy. When you do that, you keep from piling any more baggage than you already have. You keep from creating baggage with the person that you're going to spend the rest of your life with. And instead, what you do, whenever you create that separation and you end that and you abstain, you're creating that joyous excitement that should supersede and go before your marriage day. Second, and most important, is that you need to see that you are aiming to seek holiness in the eyes of God. Because if we take the other approach, we say, well, Jesus already forgave me, so I can do whatever I want. Then you're spitting in Jesus' face. And he's standing there taking the lashes, and you're picking it up, and you're hitting him, and you're saying, thanks, bro. I'm going to go sleep with whoever now. Thanks for taking that for me. And what you end up showing is that you don't really have a relationship with Jesus to begin with. But in all of this, I can tell you all I want about what God has designed, how he desires marriage to be. But if you don't actually follow Jesus, then I'm just one brand of information. And you're going to hear a lot of other stuff from other people. If you don't really understand what it means to be redeemed by Jesus, then your actions are not going to change. So I'm going to tell you, my goal is to see you give your life to Jesus. That you would say, no, Jesus is my Lord. I'm not worried about the things that the world say are good. I'm not worried about how many people I can sleep with. I'm not worried about how much money I can make. I'm not worried about how many followers I have on social media. I'm worried about what the Lord desires for my life. That's a healthy place to be. And my goal would be to see you say, Lord, I am a sinner, and I need you. All of those other things, that's sin. Anything that you put before God. That's what sin is. And we're going through Romans Road in our leadership, and one of the verses that we read is the wages of sin is death, but the free gift of God is eternal life through Christ Jesus our Lord. And Jesus says, bring all of your sin, bring all of your baggage to me, and let me make you new. Repent and follow me. And if we do that, then in our relationship later on down the road, or the one that you're in now that hasn't been focused on Christ, then you get to rejoice in the celebration of marriage, just as this couple does here. The woman says, awake north wind and come south wind, blow in my garden, that its fragrance may spread everywhere. Let my beloved come into his garden and taste its choice fruits. She's giving herself over to him. He replies, I have come into my garden, my sister, my bride. I have gathered my myrrh and my spice. I've eaten my honeycomb and my honey. I have drunk my wine and my milk. So they've consummated the marriage, and it's a joyous, beautiful thing. Their friends celebrate with them, and they say, eat, friends, and drink. Drink your fill of love. Because once marriage happens in the covenant to God, sex becomes the beautiful, ordained, holy union that is to be celebrated. I think in the church sometimes we treat sex like it's this taboo thing whenever it's something that God designed. But we've got to see that we have to have that within the context that God has designed for it to be. This man and this woman, you and your spouse. Later on down the road, the person that you're married to now, you commit your life to God. The whole picture of marriage is to be Christ in the church. For a lot of you guys, that's not some new revelation, but it's different whenever you're actually in it. Your marriage is to be designed to be the reflection of Christ in the church. Husbands laying down their lives for their wife. Wives, as the bride, submitting your life to your husband, just as the church submits to Christ. That's the call on each of our lives. To say, Jesus, I'm going to follow you wherever you take me, and I will be there faithfully. That's our job as the bride of Christ. And so if you've never made that commitment to Jesus, or you want to talk to someone else about it, and at the end of the night, we're going to have some people who come up here, and they're there to talk to you, pray with you, counsel you. But it's all about Jesus. Marriage is all about Jesus. Life is all about Jesus. YALA is all about Jesus. Find a person in a blue shirt, and they want to talk to you because they are all about